This is the lesson for 2-1 one-step equations. Whenever you want to solve an equation, the goal is to get the letter all by itself. Most of the time you do that by doing the opposite operation. If it is an adding question, you want to subtract. If it's a subtracting question, you want to add. If it's multiplying, you want to divide. If it's dividing, you want to multiply. So for the first ones, we'll take a look at the adding and subtracting questions. So if we have x plus 12 equals 23, your goal in solving any equation is to get the letter all by itself. So to try and get this x all by itself, we need to get rid of this plus 12. Well, we get rid of a plus 12 by doing minus 12 because we want those 12s to cancel out or zero out. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So we're going to do minus 12 and minus 12. Some teachers have you draw a line going down the middle to separate the two sides of the equal sign, because whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So these 12s cancel out or zero out. Bring down your x, bring down your equal sign. 23 minus 12 is 11. So your answer is 11. There is an easy way to check your answer. When you want to check your answer, if I rewrite this equation, all that I need to do to check my answer is take this 11 and sub it in for x. If I take that 11 and I sub it in for x, instead of x plus 12, I'm going to have 11 plus 12 equals 23. Well, if you actually do this calculation, 11 plus 12 gives you 23. That is the same as what we had on the other side of the equal sign. If these two numbers match in the end, you know that you did your answer right. Well, what would it look like if you did your answer wrong? Well, let's say that you subtracted and you got 10 as your answer. That's the wrong answer. You took and you did a check by subbing it back in. You would end up having 10 plus 12, which is 22. 22 does not equal 23. So that is your sign that you did something wrong. So then you would go back and fix it. Let's take a look at the next one. In the next one, we have m minus 83. To get this m all by itself, we need to get rid of the minus 83. We get rid of the minus 83 by doing plus 83 and plus 83. Again, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. Bring down your m, bring down your equal sign. 24 plus 83 gives you 107. Again, you could check subtraction problems too. We have our original equation, m minus 83 equals 24. We can take and sub in our answer. We could take our 107 and sub it in for m. When we go and sub it in for m, we would have 107 minus 83 equals 24. Actually do this calculation. You can type it right into a calculator. 107 minus 83 does give you 24. So 24 equals 24. The two sides match, so you know your answer is correct. Let's take a look at another one. Sometimes they're going to try and trick you by writing the problem backwards, like this one is. You have 15 plus w. Now, if you really wanted to, you could take and switch that around to be w plus 15, because you could switch around adding questions like that. But you shouldn't have to. You can solve it exactly how it is. Now, this is really a positive 15. Well, positive signs and plus signs look the same and work the same way. Same thing with negative signs and minus signs. They look the same. They mean the same thing. They work the same way. So to get rid of this positive 15, I'm going to do minus 15 and minus 15. Again, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. Bring down your w, bring down your equal sign. 95 minus 15 gives you 80. In the next one, in this one, we had the problem written backwards. We could switch it around if we wanted to, but I'm just going to solve it exactly how it is. To get rid of this negative 10, the opposite of negative 10 is a positive 10 or plus 10. So to get these 10s to cancel out or zero out, you have to add 10 to both sides of the equal sign. Bring down your x, bring down your equal sign. 35 plus 10 gives you 45. You're going to have questions that the whole problem is written backwards. In this one, they have the equals -5 all the way at the end. You could take that equals 5 and move it to the opposite side so that the problem looks like this. At h plus 3 equals 5 and negative 5 instead of negative 5 equals. We can move that equals negative 5 all the way to the end if we want to, but we shouldn't have to. We want to get that h, that letter, all by itself. So we're going to do minus 3 and minus 3. Those 3's cancel out or zero out. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. So we get h equals negative 8. Negative 8 equals h is the same exact thing. If we switched around the equal sign to the other side, we would have got h equals negative 8. These two answers are the same exact thing. Sometimes you might have fractions. Anytime that you have a fraction, I would change the fraction into a decimal. You do that by doing the top number divided by the bottom number. So to change a fraction to a decimal, you do the top number divided by the bottom number. So in this case, I'm going to do 1 divided by 5. 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. So I have x minus 0.2 equals negative 4. To get rid of that minus 0.2, I'm going to do plus 0.2 and plus 0.2. Bring down your x, bring down your equal sign. Negative 4 plus 0.2 gives you negative 3.8. Moving on to multiplying and dividing questions. When a number is next to a letter, like this 4 is next to this x, this really means 4 times x. There's not a dot written there, but when the number is next to the letter, that means times. The opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide by 4 and divide by 4. Again, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. Bring down your x, bring down your equal sign. Always do top divided by bottom. 20 divided by 4 gives you 5. We can check with this type of problem too by rewriting the question and subbing in for our answer. Now be careful, when you go to sub in the 5 in for your x, it does not become 45. This is really 4 times 5, which equals 20. Well, actually do that calculation. 4 times 5 is 20, so 20 equals 20. It checks. If I take a look at the next one is a dividing question. We have m divided by 5. The opposite of divided by 5 would be to multiply by 5. So I'm going to do times 5 and times 5. Bring down my m, bring down my equal sign. 7 times 5 gives me 35. I can check on this one as well by rewriting the question. By rewriting the question, m divided by 5 equals 7. Subbing in my answer. So this time I'm going to take my 35 and sub it into there for m. So I have 35 divided by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7 when you actually do this calculation. So 7 equals 7. If the two numbers match on the two sides, you know that it is the correct answer. Let's take a look at some more. So sometimes they're going to try and trick you with multiplying questions that are written backwards. This really says negative 12 times x. You always want to work with the number that's next to the letter. So this says negative 12 times x. The opposite of times is to divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 12 and divide by negative 12. Always do top divided by bottom. 120 divided by negative 12 is negative 10. And in this next one, we have x divided by 4. The opposite of divided by 4 is to multiply by 4. So I'm going to do times 4 and times 4. 10 times 4 gives me 40. Take a look at two more. We're going to have some negatives. This says negative 4 times x. The opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 4 and divide by negative 4. Top divided by bottom, negative 4 divided by negative 60 divided by negative 4. Please remember that a negative divided by a negative is a positive 15. In this one, same thing. This says w divided by negative 2. The opposite of divided by would be to multiply by. So I want to do times negative 2 and times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 8, a negative times a negative is a positive 16. So we get 16 equals w. So again, anytime you're solving any equation, your goal is to get the letter all by itself. You do that by doing the opposite operation. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side of the